Okay, this is a video testing out the C70's new RAW LT and ST against the XF-AVC Intra and Long GOP codecs. In this test I wanted to see the quality differences, the sharpness difference, any noise differences, and also just in general how each performs in post-production. If you want to skip along to a certain piece of information, just look in the description and I'll have everything time-stamped. To really see the differences between compressed codecs, you kind of have to shoot a very detailed scene with lots of shadows and highlights and moving parts. So that's what I'll show you in these tests. At the end of this video, I'll also put each clip at 100% and 1000% graded and ungraded in case you really want to pixel peep it for yourself in full screen. So if you look in the description, you can just skip along to that if you want. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so before I start, I just want to kind of show you how I've got everything set up. So I have each layer, each track is a different codec. So we got the RAW LT at the bottom, RAW ST, All Intra, and then Long GOP at the top, which is the pink. So I'm going to run through these and enable them at different sort of zoomed in ratios. So how I have this set up is in the color management, make sure that you've got it on DaVinci YRGB. I had it on color managed and that didn't let me access all the drop downs of the camera raw. It took me like 20 minutes to find that out, so just make sure that's in YRGB. For this one in particular, I'm not using the LUT on a node, I'm just using it on an input LUT here, which is Canon Log2 to BT709 YDR65. You can download these from the Canon website. That's just a reference for you. And so everything you see here was captured in log, and it's a log image, but the LUT's already being applied. So that's just to keep things simple so I don't have to keep going to the log image. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, it's 100%. So this is Long GOP. This is All Intra, this is ST, this is LT. So did you see the difference? Probably not, right? Which is very surprising to me that you couldn't see that at all. So let's go into 500% and look here. So this is the Long GOP, this is the All Intra, this is the ST, and this is the LT. So now you can see a difference. So just to flick between the LT and the ST, this is LT, and this is ST. LT, ST. This is 500% though. And you really need to be zoomed in that much to really tell the difference between LT and ST. I just think the LT looks slightly blockier, but you can't tell when it's zoomed out. So let me go even more, and let's go 1000%. So only a crazy person who's going to watch this at 1000%. But this is the LT, and now ST. LT, ST. So you can see the jaggies around here, like come in, watch. LT, ST. So that's the only difference. Now I'm going to keep it on ST, and now I'm going to show you ST compared with All Intra. So this is ST, and this is All Intra. So you can see how the RAW is noisier but sharper. This is All Intra and the ST. But this is at 1000%. When you're zoomed out, you cannot tell. The RAW is just ever so slightly sharper. Now, when you unlock the RAW for the first time, you'll see that in the panel it's defaulted on 10 sharpness. It's on 0 now, so don't worry. So what you saw before was 0, but just so you know that, and let me show you what that looks like. Let me reset everything here. So once you've got your clip, you'll set it to full res Canon, and that will unlock all of these. And you set decode to clip, and then your sharpness is here, so bring that back down, and now you have access to all of your sliders. Now with the RAW, I found that it was just a lot easier to use and make very small tweaks. I don't like heavy color grading, so if you're like me, the RAW panel is just so nice to just bring it down, you know, a third of a stop, a half stop, or a full stop. Like this is overexposed, right? So I think the adjustment I made was just literally from ISO 800 to 640, and then I was happy with that, how that's sat. You don't even need to mess with the ISO. You could just bring the highlights down if you wanted a flatter image, and you can boost the shadows, bring the shadows down, you know, ton of stuff. So let's just reset that, get back to where we were. And now, I know I've been on this clip long now and you're probably bored of it, but I just want to really nail it in. Let me show you the ST, which is this, compared with the Long GOP. So this is ST, and this is Long GOP. ST, Long GOP. Now, at 100% you won't be able to tell. That's the first test, like how much detail does it retain. Usually if there's a lot of leaves moving and very high detailed scene, things tend to get muddied up, shadows tend to get muddied up, but the Canon's codecs are actually quite nice and didn't get very murky at all, which I was very surprised about. So let's move on to the next clip, which is this one. Show you that in full screen. So this was overexposed again, so another good thing to test out. And with this one, I'm going to show you sort of how they compare. So let's go all the way in. Let's go to 521%. Look at the bikes as they won't be moving. And then I'm going to show you the Long GOP compared with the ST. So this is Long GOP, this is ST. It's Long GOP, this is ST. Some people might even say that they prefer the softness of the already sort of in-camera denoising whatever's going on with it. Okay, so that was the RAW ST against the Long GOP. So now let's see the Long GOP against All Intra. This is Long GOP, this is All Intra. Long GOP, All Intra. You cannot tell, like it's literally impossible. Here's a scene and it's overexposed, so let's have a look at how easy or how quickly we can adjust these and see if we can get the same results. So for me, I'd probably just change the ISO or change the exposure. So let's reduce exposure by 1 stop. Let's go -1. And now that looks okay, -1 exposure. And that's fine, right? Then go -1. So 2. So this is comparing the LT with the ST. LT, ST. So you can, if I go right in, this is the LT, this is the ST, this is the LT, this is the ST. So very difficult, can't really tell the difference. Now let's try bringing down this clip, which is the All Intra. Now there's no RAW panel for the XF-AVC, obviously. Okay, so let's try bringing down the All Intra. And let's see, just go down on the midtones, down on the gain, a little bit more down on the highlights. Messing with the sky a bit too much there though. Let's go down on the offset instead. And there's not a set way to do this, so just forgive me. As you can see, I'm not the best color grader, but you can move it around. It's very versatile. There's a bit too much contrast in the XAVC at the minute, but that's mainly because of the way I've graded it. But you can see that adjustment that I made, you can more or less kind of do the same thing with the XF-AVC Intra. And it's pretty much the same thing with the long GOP. If I just apply the grade I just did and then show you the long GOP, this is long GOP, this is the Intra, long GOP, Intra. You can't tell basically. So even when we're going up and down a stop, can't really tell. It's quite easy to adjust. So very impressive. The 10-bit out of this camera is still amazing. Now let's move on to the next clip, which is a very high contrast scene. So with this one, let's try and create a totally different look to what was captured from the camera. So let's go in the RAW panel. This is the ST, and for this let's go brighter. Let's go a stop brighter. No, let's go 2 stops brighter. Let's go crazy. It's got ISO 3200, which is kind of nuts, and now it's overexposed. Bring the highlights down, exposure down a little bit, and shadows up. Exposure down a little bit more, and let's boost the saturation right up, which is horrible, but you can imagine why I'm doing it. Oh, it looks too horrible, sorry. Okay, so look at this look, and let's just grab that and get the gallery up. And you can see how if I just reset this very quickly, you can create a very different look very easily just with a few tweaks of the slider. You could go the absolute opposite way and go ISO 500 and drop the shadows and create a horrible image. So it just depends what you want to do, and it's very, very versatile. So just bringing that back to how it was. And now let's try something. Let's try and match the long GOP to the ST. See how that goes. Okay, good. I can mess with it here. Now there's no RAW panel in the XF-AVC, like I said before. And so let's try the offset. There. And then maybe shadows, I guess. And midtones. See that? It's so good, man. This is the XF-AVC as well. Very similar. I'm doing it all in the same node too, which is not great, but okay. Now what I don't see right now is this nice highlight sky. It's all burnt out here. So what I have to do is try and bring the gain down, or the offset, I guess. This is harder to do, you see. And then I guess the mids will back up. So I'm kind of juggling it. I don't know, kind of looks similar. So this is the raw and what I got back. Now this one looks murky, so that's why. Maybe the offset again. Tricky. I think you could probably get there, but it's just my lack of using the wheels. So just to see them side by side, this is the RAW ST, this is the Long GOP RAW ST, Long GOP. Some people might even prefer this kind of washed out, sort of fogged look. Probably not, but you get my point. Is it's also very versatile. Now let's see the Long GOP compared to the ST really close up. So this is Long GOP, this is ST, Long GOP, ST. Kind of difficult to see. Long GOP, ST. So there is more detail but also more noise, but it's kind of, it's whatever really. Okay, so that was that one. Now this is on the other edit, which all I have here is the RAW LT against the All Intra, which I think is a good comparison as it's very close to the Long GOP anyway. So just looking at this side, this is the RAW, this is the Intra, so not much difference at all there. Let's try something like this dark scene. So one good thing with RAW is you can really create different looks. So what I mean by that is this is the RAW, and very quickly I can decide whether I want to see this wall or I want it to be in darkness. So if I just reset this and say, okay, let's imagine it's shot at ISO 800 or even lower, ISO 500. So now as this car comes through, or the bicycle, sorry, it's going to light up, and it's going to light up everything on this wall. And even if this is super hot, so take this part here where this gleams across, even if it's super hot, I can be like, okay, let me bring those highlights down. And in that case, I can't bring them all the way down, but it's a lot better than it was, right? So I can bring all those highlights down, it's coming across, and now I have this cool sort of silhouetted shot of this person on the bicycle. I can't see what the person's wearing, I can't see their face, it's a different mood, right? But if I decide the opposite of that and say, actually no, this doesn't suit the look of my project, actually what I need to do is create a look where I can see as much as possible, then I might choose to say, okay, then let me drop the highlights anyway, but also let me boost the shadows, which is going to make everything noisy, but that's fine. Or just raise the ISO, right? So I can say, okay, let's just keep the highlights down but raise the ISO, which will flatten out the curve out. And then maybe I will bring the shadows down a little bit. But you can see now, I can see her face a lot better. I can see her backpack. and it feels like it isn't in darkness. And still, even with these headlights, I still have a lot of control. It's still not clipped them out. We still briefly lose, like when it catches here, we do lose this here. But for a file that can handle a super dark look but also brighten look as well, it's pretty amazing. If you wanted to do that with the XF-AVC, let's reset that. We go in here, let's try that, bumping up the offset, and then bringing the shadows back down a bit. And let's see, the car's going to be very hot, so I'll probably drop the gain a bit. And that was quite quick as well. It's just a little bit harder because you can make the image can break apart a little bit easier. But if I bring up the gallery now, and we can apply those, so here was the one where we kind of see everything, and then here was the darker one. It's not so cool, but you get the idea. Okay, finally the last clip I'm going to show you is this scene, which is kind of full of neon signs and stuff like that in a sort of dark area. So first let's look at the RAW. Let's go to the RAW panel, and very easily we can change our white balance, and we can decide if we want to keep all the detail in the signs by dropping the highlights or blowing them out. Let's keep that detail, and let's try and get the detail in the people as well. Let's boost the shadows slightly. Like that. Bring the highlights down even more. Maybe that's a bit too much there. Could even mess with the ISO. But for now, let's just take a look at that. So that's, let's add a little bit of saturation. So as you can see, if I reset that now, we went from this to this, which is very different. And you could go with the complete opposite and go, okay, no, I want it dark and blue, right? So I don't want to see the people, I just want to see the cars. And if that's the case, then we'd probably go something like, I don't know, something like that. Probably looks terrible, but you get the idea that you can go from that to that on the same file. Let's try and recreate that. with the XF-AVC. Let's see, offset for now, just the easy way, and drop there, drop the highlights. Oh, that's the highlight slider. Oh my god, drop the highlights, and that's pretty much it, I think. Just a little bit more. Yeah, that's the only thing. It kind of feels like it's leaked. It kind of feels like it's leaked over, like the orange is leaked over. But anyway, let's compare those real quick and say XF-AVC and RAW. You see how it's just easier to do the RAW and stuff like this when it's a big change? I think it's just more work. I know we had saturation too, but look at the sign. Look at this sign here. Very difficult. So it's good that this was the final one, but can you see that? It's just a lot easier to change the RAW files than it is with the XF-AVC. But if you're in the ballpark, if you don't make mistakes, or if it's just a very small tweak, then the XF-AVC works fine. If I just reset these both, so just looking at them side by side, you really can't tell. This is the XF-AVC and this is the RAW. See, they hardly change. Okay, so last thing, I just wanted to talk about the codecs themselves. So this is with a 128 gig card running at 23.98, and you'll see that the ST is actually the same size pretty much as the RAW Intra, which is kind of crazy, and the RAW LT is somewhere in between the Long GOP and the RAW Intra. Most people will probably shoot Long GOP or RAW LT depending on their situation. I know from my experience that if you don't have a fast CPU, the Long GOP can be quite choppy and jerky sometimes, especially if you're color grading. So I think most people will probably go for the LT. The only other advantage that Long GOP will give you is obviously you can shoot up to 120 frames. Anything over 60 frames is you're gonna lose the advantage of the DJO sensor and lose 1 or 2 stops of dynamic range. But that will just give you a bit more noise in the shadows, but it still looks great. So all in all, my final verdict is basically that it doesn't really matter which codec you shoot at, they're all gonna look great. Only thing is, if you know you might make mistakes or be in a rush shooting, it might just be better to shoot the LT to give you that little bit more versatility in post. But other than that, I think it's a no-brainer to use the LT or the Long GOP. But anyway, that's the end of the test. I hope they were helpful, and don't forget that all of the codecs are amazing and you can't really go wrong no matter what codec you shoot in. So let me know in the comments if this was useful or if there was something I did wrong in the video. That way everybody who's watching it can get that information too. Okay, thanks, goodbye.